The apartment key felt like ice in my trembling fingers as I stood outside the door I'd walked through 1,000 times before. It was late, past midnight, and I'd stayed overtime at the cafe again, my feet aching from the double shift. But I'd been excited, clutching the small box containing the watch I'd saved 3 months to buy for Miho's birthday next week. I should have called first. I should have knocked. Instead, I used my key, pushing open the door to darkness broken only by the faint light seeping from the bedroom, our bedroom. The sounds hit me first, and my stomach dropped so violently I thought I might be sick right there in the entryway. Breathless gasps. Skin against skin. Miho's voice, low and hungry in a way I'd once believed was reserved only for me. My feet moved without permission, carrying me down that hallway even as my mind screamed at me to run, to leave, to not see what I already knew was waiting. The bedroom door was cracked open. And there, tangled in sheets I'd washed just yesterday, was Miho with another Omega. Someone younger, prettier, with delicate features and long legs wrapped around my boyfriend's waist. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't move. That's when Miho saw me. For one horrible second I thought I saw guilt flash across his face. But then he laughed, actually laughed, as he pulled away from the stranger in our bed. "Young Min," he said, not even bothering to cover himself. "You're home early." The other Omega looked at me with wide, startled eyes, pulling the sheet up to cover his chest. He looked almost apologetic, which somehow made it worse. How long? My voice came out broken, barely a whisper. Miho shrugged, reaching for his discarded shirt. "Does it matter? You really thought this was serious?" He turned to the other Omega with a smirk. "Can you believe it? 2 years and he still thought we were in love. Like some kind of Omega fairy tale." The stranger shifted uncomfortably. "Miho." "No, it's funny," Miho continued, his voice dripping with cruel amusement. "Young Min here is so fucking gullible. So desperate to be loved that he'll believe anything. I told him I loved him and he just ate it up. Did everything I asked. Paid half my rent even though I make more than him. Cooked, cleaned, played the perfect little housewife Omega." Each word was a knife, twisting deeper. "He was useful," Miho said, looking directly at me now with eyes that held nothing. No warmth, no affection, nothing that resembled the person I thought I knew. "But honestly, I'm getting bored. And Juno here." He trailed his fingers down the other Omega's arm. "He's much more interesting." The watch box slipped from my fingers, hitting the floor with a hollow thud. "Get out, Young Min," Miho said, his voice flat. "I'll pack your stuff tomorrow. You can pick it up next week." I don't remember leaving. Don't remember the elevator ride down or stumbling out into the Seoul night. I just remember walking until my feet were numb and my face was wet with tears I didn't remember shedding. The bar was called Crimson, a dark, upscale place I'd never have entered on a normal day. But nothing about tonight was normal. The world had tilted sideways and I was falling with nothing to grab onto. "Soju," I told the bartender, my voice hoarse. "Keep them coming." He raised an eyebrow at my appearance. I must have looked wrecked, my work uniform rumpled, my eyes red and swollen, but he poured without comment. I lost count after the 4th shot. Or maybe it was the 7th. The alcohol burned going down, but it dulled the sharper edges of the pain, turned the screaming in my head into a manageable roar. 2 years, I muttered to no one in particular. 2 fucking years. I'd been so careful with my heart. After my parents died, after my sister practically raised me while working 3 jobs, I'd learned that love was precious and rare. I thought Miho was my reward for surviving, my prize for making it through the darkness. Instead, he'd been playing me from the start. "Another," I slurred at the bartender, pushing my empty glass forward. "I think you've had enough," he said gently. "I'll decide when I've had enough," I snapped, though the words came out mushier than I intended. "I'm a paying customer." Pour. A hand, large, with elegant fingers, intercepted my glass before the bartender could respond. "He's right," a deep voice said from beside me. "You've had enough." I turned to snap at whoever was interfering, and found myself staring up at the most striking alpha I'd ever seen. Tall, at least 6 feet, with sharp features that looked carved from marble. Black hair swept back from a face that was beautiful in a cold, dangerous way. His eyes were dark and assessing, his mouth set in a firm line. He wore an expensive black suit that probably cost more than 6 months of my rent. But what struck me most was the aura of power that radiated from him. This wasn't just any alpha. This was someone important. Someone dangerous. For some reason that made me angry. "Mind your own business," I said, trying to snatch the glass back and nearly falling off my bar stool in the process. His hand shot out, steadying me with surprising gentleness. "Careful. Don't touch me," I said even as I leaned into his solid warmth. My omega instincts responding to his alpha presence despite my alcohol-soaked brain. You're all the same. All of you. Alphas, betas, doesn't matter. You all lie. Something flickered in those dark eyes. Had a bad day? I laughed and it came out slightly hysterical. Bad day? Bad day? I poked his chest. God, it was solid, with one finger. I had a bad 2 years. Wasted on someone who thought I was useful. Disposable. The alpha's jaw tightened slightly. Around us, I was dimly aware of the bar growing quieter, of people watching our interaction with wide eyes. But I was too drunk and too heartbroken to care. Come on, the alpha said, his voice low and commanding. I'll get you a cab. No. I grabbed his arm as he started to stand. Don't leave. Everyone leaves. Everyone lies and leaves, and my voice cracked, and suddenly I was crying again, tears streaming down my face as I clung to this stranger like he was a lifeline. Why wasn't I enough? What's wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you. The alpha's voice was firm, and something about it, the certainty, the absolute conviction, made me cry harder. I pressed my face against his shoulder, not caring that I was making a scene, that my tears were probably ruining his obviously expensive suit. Strong arms wrapped around me, holding me steady as I fell apart. He said I was gullible, I sobbed. That I was useful but boring. That he never loved me. 2 years and it was all fake. How could I be so stupid? You're not stupid, the alpha said quietly. His hand moved to the back of my head, cradling it gently. You trusted someone who didn't deserve it. That doesn't make you stupid. It makes him a bastard. I pulled back to look at him through blurry eyes. You don't even know me. I know enough. His thumb brushed across my cheek, wiping away tears. The gesture was so tender it made my chest ache. What's your name? Young Min, I whispered. And you? He hesitated for the briefest moment. Eugene. Eugene, I repeated, the name feeling strange on my tongue. That's a strong name. An alpha name. I laughed bitterly. My ex was an alpha too. Thought that meant something. Thought alphas were supposed to be loyal, protective. But he just used me. Not all alphas are like your ex. Not all alphas are like your ex. How do I know you're not lying too? I challenged, poking his chest again. How do I know you're not just saying what I want to hear? You don't, Eugene admitted. But I have no reason to lie to a drunk Omega I just met in a bar. That logic somehow made sense to my alcohol-addled brain. I slumped against him again, suddenly exhausted. I'm so tired of hurting. So tired of being alone. You're not alone right now. But you'll leave. Soon as I let go, you'll leave and I'll be alone again. My fingers clutched at his jacket. Don't leave yet. Please? Just stay a little longer. I felt him sigh, felt the vibration of it through his chest. All right. I'll stay. Around us, the bar had gone almost completely silent. I caught glimpses of shocked faces, heard whispered conversations that my drunk brain couldn't quite process. Someone said something that sounded like, does he know who that is? But I ignored it. All that mattered was that this alpha, this stranger, was holding me while I broke into pieces. Come on, Eugene said eventually, shifting to stand and pulling me up with him. I'm taking you home. Don't have a home, I mumbled, swaying on my feet. That was his apartment. Mine's across town and I don't want to go there. Don't want to be alone. Eugene steadied me with both hands on my shoulders. Where's your phone? I'll call someone. A friend? Family? My sister, I slurred. But she has 3 kids and works early. Don't want to bother her. She's done enough for me. Young Min. Your home, I said suddenly, grabbing his arm. I'll go to your home. His eyes widened slightly. You can't. Please? I looked up at him, knowing I probably looked like a complete mess but beyond caring. I can't be alone tonight. I can't. I'll sleep on your couch, I won't bother you, My voice broke. Please don't make me be alone. Eugene stared at me for a long moment, something unreadable flickering across his face. Then he nodded slowly. All right. But just for tonight. Just for tonight, I agreed, relief flooding through me. Thank you. He guided me toward the exit, his hand steady on my lower back. As we passed the bar, the bartender called out, Boss, are you sure? It's fine, Chin, Eugene said shortly. Boss, that was weird. But I was too drunk to think about it too hard. The night air hit me like a slap, cold and sobering for all of half a second before I stumbled. Eugene caught me easily, his arm wrapping around my waist to keep me upright. Sorry, I mumbled. Not usually like this. Don't usually drink. Don't usually cry on strangers. Special circumstances, Eugene said, and there was the faintest trace of amusement in his voice. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb, something expensive and intimidating that I couldn't identify in my current state. A man in a dark suit stepped out from the driver's side, his eyes widening slightly when he saw me. "Sir?" "Home," Eugene said simply, helping me into the back seat. I immediately sprawled across the leather seats with a sigh. "Comfortable. Your car is nice." "Thank you," Eugene said dryly, sliding in beside me. I should have stayed on my side of the car. Should have maintained some semblance of personal space and dignity. Instead, the moment we started moving, I found myself listing sideways until my head rested on Eugene's shoulder. "You smell good," I mumbled. "Like sandalwood? And something else. Something clean and expensive." "You're very drunk," Eugene observed. "Very heartbroken," I corrected. Then, because apparently alcohol had destroyed all my filters, I added, "You're really handsome. Did anyone ever tell you that? Like unfairly handsome. It's kind of annoying." I felt more than heard his quiet laugh. "Is it? Makes me want to." I trailed off, my drunk brain losing the thread of thought. Want to what? Instead of answering, I tilted my head up to look at him. In the dim light of the passing street lamps, Eugene's face was all sharp angles and shadows. Beautiful and dangerous, and for tonight at least, mine to cling to. "Kiss you," I said honestly. "Want to kiss you." Erase Miho from my mouth. Replace him with something better. Someone better. Eugene's hand came up to cup my jaw, his thumb tracing my lower lip in a gesture that was more warning than invitation. "You don't want to do that." "Why not?" I challenged, my eyes struggling to focus on his. "You don't want to kiss me? That's not the issue." "Then what is?" He was quiet for a moment. "You're drunk. Hurting. You'll regret this in the morning." "Maybe," I agreed. "But right now, in this moment, I just want to feel something other than pain. Can you give me that? Just for tonight?" The car pulled up to a building that, even in my drunken state, I could tell was expensive. One of those luxury high-rises in Gangnam where a single apartment probably cost more than I'd make in a lifetime. Eugene helped me out of the car, his arm steady around my waist as I stumbled. The doorman greeted him with a respectful bow. "Good evening, boss," which again struck me as odd, but I was too focused on not falling to think about it. The elevator ride up was long. We must have been going high to one of the penthouse floors. I leaned against the wall, watching Eugene through half-closed eyes. "You're taking care of me," I said softly. "Why?" He didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was carefully neutral. "I don't like seeing people in pain." "That's a lie," I said, though I didn't know why I was so certain. "I think you see people in pain all the time. I think you cause it sometimes." His eyes snapped to mine, sharp and assessing. "You're surprisingly perceptive for someone so drunk." "I work with people. At a cafe. You learn to read them." I pushed off the wall, swaying slightly as I approached him. "You're dangerous, aren't you? That's why everyone was staring at the bar. That's why they call you boss. Does that scare you?" I considered the question seriously. Should it? Probably. "But you haven't hurt me. You've been gentle." I reached up, my fingers brushing his jaw. "Why?" The elevator doors opened before he could answer, revealing a hallway with only 2 doors, both obviously leading to massive apartments. Eugene guided me to the left door, unlocking it with a key card and ushering me inside. The apartment was stunning, all modern lines and expensive furnishings, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of Seoul's glittering nightscape. But I barely noticed the decor. All my attention was on the alpha beside me, on the way he was watching me with an intensity that made my omega instincts sing with awareness. "Guest room is this way," Eugene said, starting down a hallway. I caught his hand, stopping him. "I don't want to be alone." "Young Min." "Your room," I insisted. "I want to stay in your room. Please?" His jaw tensed. "That's not a good idea." "I don't care." I moved closer until we were barely a foot apart. "I don't want good ideas tonight. I don't want to be responsible or careful or smart. I just want to forget. Just for a few hours. Help me forget." "You're asking for something you might not want to give," Eugene said, his voice rough. "Or maybe I'm asking for exactly what I want." I swayed forward, my hands finding his chest for balance. "You feel solid. Real. Not like a dream or a lie. Just real." His hands came up to grip my waist, whether to steady me or push me away I wasn't sure. "If we do this, you need to understand something." "What?" "I don't do gentle. I don't do romantic. If you're in my bed, you're mine for the night. Completely. No hesitation, no regrets." His eyes bore into mine. "Can you handle that?" I should have said no. should have recognized the warning for what it was. Instead, I felt a thrill run through me, dark and exhilarating. "Show me," I whispered. Something in Eugene's expression shifted, the careful control cracking to reveal raw hunger underneath. He backed me against the nearest wall, his body pressing against mine, and I gasped at the solid heat of him. "Last chance to change your mind," he said, his breath hot against my ear. Instead of answering, I tilted my head up and kissed him. For a heartbeat, Eugene didn't move. Then he was kissing me back with a ferocity that stole my breath, his mouth claiming mine like he owned it, like he owned me. His tongue swept past my lips, tasting, demanding, and I opened for him with a moan. This wasn't like kissing Miho. Miho had been tentative, careful, controlled. Eugene kissed like he was conquering, like he was imprinting himself on my very soul. His hand slid down to grip my thighs, and suddenly I was being lifted, my legs wrapping instinctively around his waist as he carried me down the hallway. I didn't break the kiss, couldn't, too lost in the taste of him, whiskey and mint and something darker. He shouldered open a door, his bedroom I assumed, and then I was being lowered onto the softest bed I'd ever felt. Eugene followed me down, his body covering mine, and the weight of him felt like an anchor, grounding me in the present moment. "Young Min," he breathed against my lips. "Are you sure?" "Yes," I gasped, my fingers working at the buttons of his shirt with clumsy urgency. "Yes, please, I need." He caught my hands, pinning them above my head with one of his own. "Slow down. We have all night." "Don't want slow," I protested, arching against him. "Want to forget. Want to feel something other than." He silenced me with another kiss, this one somehow both brutal and tender. His free hand slid under my shirt, fingers tracing patterns on my skin that made me shiver. "You'll feel everything I give you," Eugene promised darkly. "Every touch, every kiss, every moment. And tomorrow when you wake up, you won't remember his name. Only mine." It sounded like a threat and a promise all at once. And God help me, I wanted it. Eugene undressed me slowly despite my impatient whimpers. Each piece of clothing was removed with deliberate care. My work shirt, my pants, until I lay beneath him in nothing but my underwear. "Beautiful," he murmured, his eyes roaming over me with undisguised appreciation. "How could anyone call you disposable?" The words, so unexpected and genuine, made tears prick at my eyes. "Don't say things you don't mean." "I don't." His hand cupped my face with surprising gentleness. "I've seen a lot of people, Young Min, beautiful and ugly inside and out. And you? You're the real thing." Then he was kissing me again and I lost myself in sensation. His mouth traced a path from my lips to my jaw, down my throat where my omega scent glands pulsed with arousal. When he bit down gently, I cried out, my back arching off the bed. "Sensitive," Eugene observed with satisfaction. "Good." His hands and mouth explored every inch of me, learning what made me gasp, what made me moan, what made me beg. By the time he finally removed the last barrier between us, I was trembling with need, my mind blissfully empty of everything except the alpha above me. "Protection?" Eugene asked, his voice strained. "I'm on suppressants," I managed. "Clean. Haven't been with anyone but." "Don't say his name," Eugene interrupted, his eyes flashing. "Not here. Not in my bed." "Then make me forget it," I challenged. He did. When Eugene finally joined our bodies, I gasped at the overwhelming sensation, the fullness, the stretch, the rightness of it. He stilled above me, giving me time to adjust, and when I nodded, he began to move. It was intense. Consuming. Nothing like the careful, controlled encounters I'd had with Miho. Eugene took me like he meant it, like he was claiming something precious, and I surrendered completely to the onslaught of sensation. "Look at me," he commanded when my eyes started to flutter closed. "I want you to see who's touching you. Who's making you feel this way." I forced my eyes open, meeting his dark gaze, and the intensity there stole my breath. He looked fierce and possessive and hungry, like I was something valuable he'd found and refused to let go. "Eugene," I gasped as pleasure built impossibly higher. "That's right. My name. Remember it." When I finally fell apart, it was with his name on my lips, his body holding mine, his presence overwhelming every other thought. And as the waves of pleasure rolled through me, I felt something crack open inside, all the pain and betrayal and heartbreak pouring out, making room for something new. Eugene followed moments later with a groan, his forehead pressed against mine, and for that perfect instant, we were utterly connected. Afterwards, as I lay trembling in his arms, consciousness already fading, I heard him whisper something that my drunk mind couldn't quite process. It sounded like, "Mine?" But that couldn't be right. Could it? I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and a splitting headache that made me want to die. For a disoriented moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then the memories came flooding back. The bar, the crying, the stranger who'd held me while I fell apart. The stranger I'd gone home with. The stranger I'd slept with. "Oh God," I whispered, my face burning with humiliation. I turned my head carefully, wincing at the spike of pain the movement caused, and found Eugene lying beside me. He was already awake, propped up on one elbow, watching me with those intense dark eyes. He looked just as devastatingly handsome in the morning light as he had in the dim bar. More so, maybe, with his hair slightly mussed and his chest bare above the sheet pooled at his waist. "Morning," he said, his voice gravelly. "Morning," I croaked back, then immediately regretted speaking. My mouth tasted like death and regret. "Bathroom's through there," Eugene said, nodding toward a door. "There's aspirin in the medicine cabinet." I nodded carefully, then realized I was completely naked under the sheets. My clothes? On the chair. He gestured toward a leather armchair where my clothes from last night were neatly folded. Of course they were. Because this alpha was apparently perfect even in the details. I managed to extricate myself from the bed with minimal dignity loss, clutching the sheet around me as I grabbed my clothes and fled to the bathroom. The face that stared back at me from the mirror was a disaster. Red-rimmed eyes, messy hair, and what looked suspiciously like a hickey on my neck. I groaned, splashing cold water on my face and trying not to think about everything I'd done last night. I cried all over a stranger. Begged him to take me home. Asked him to make me forget. And he had. God, he really had. Heat flooded through me at the memories, fragmented but vivid. Eugene's hands on my skin. His mouth claiming mine. The way he'd made me feel desired and precious and whole, even if just for a night. I'd never felt like that with Miho. Not once in 2 years. After taking the aspirin and making myself as presentable as possible, I emerged from the bathroom fully dressed to find Eugene had put on pajama pants and was standing by the window, coffee cup in hand. "There's coffee," he said without turning around. And I had breakfast brought up. "You didn't have to. Sit down, Young Min." It wasn't a suggestion. Something about the quiet authority in his voice made me obey automatically, sinking into one of the dining chairs. A full breakfast was laid out: rice, soup, grilled fish, and various side dishes. My stomach growled despite my hangover. Eugene sat across from me, watching as I hesitantly picked up chopsticks. "You'll feel better." We ate in silence for a few minutes. I snuck glances at him between bites, trying to reconcile the tender lover from last night with the intimidating alpha across from me now. "Thank you," I finally said quietly. "For everything. I'm sorry for imposing on you like that. I was drunk and stupid and—" "Stop apologizing." I blinked at him. "You were hurt," Eugene said, his eyes fixed on mine. "You needed comfort. There's nothing wrong with that. I threw myself at a complete stranger. You trusted your instincts. They led you to someone who wouldn't hurt you." His lips curved slightly. "That's not stupid. That's survival." I didn't know what to say to that. "Well, thank you anyway. I should probably go. I'm sure you have things to do and we need to talk." My stomach dropped. "About? Last night. What happens next?" "Nothing happens next," I said quickly. "It was one night. You were clear about that. I don't expect anything from you, I want your number." I froze, chopsticks halfway to my mouth. "What? Your number? Phone number?" Eugene pulled out his phone, sliding it across the table to me. "Put it in." "Why would you want my number?" His eyes met mine, and there was something in them that made my breath catch. "Because one night isn't going to be enough." "But you said." "I said a lot of things last night. I'm saying something different now." He leaned back in his chair, studying me. "I want to see you again, Young Min. If you're willing." My heart was racing. "You don't even know me. So let me get to know you. I'm a mess. I just got out of a horrible relationship. I'm probably not going to be good company for a while. I don't care. You should care. You should run in the opposite direction from the crying drunk Omega who accosted you in a bar. Not interested in running." Eugene's voice was firm. "Give me your number." I should have said no. Should have recognized that this was too much, too fast, too complicated. Instead, I found myself taking his phone and entering my number. "There," I said, sliding it back to him. "But don't expect much. I'm serious about being a mess right now. I'll take what you can give." He looked at his phone, then back at me. "When can I see you again?" "I don't know. I have to work and I need to find a new apartment since I obviously can't go back to—" I cut myself off, pain lancing through my chest at the memory. Eugene's expression darkened. "Where are you staying tonight?" "My sister's probably. I'll call her after work." "Give me her address." "Why?" Because I want to know where you are. That you're safe. There was something possessive in his tone that should have bothered me. Instead, it made me feel secure. Protected. You're very bossy, I observed. Yes, he agreed without shame. I am. Get used to it. Despite everything, I felt a smile tug at my lips. I should really go. I have a shift starting in 2 hours and I need to shower and change and my driver will take you home. Wherever you need to go. That's not necessary. Young-min. He stood, moving around the table until he was in front of me. His hand cupped my jaw, tilting my face up to his. Let me take care of you. Even in small ways. Can you do that? I should have said no. Should have established boundaries and independence. Instead, I nodded. Good. He pressed a soft kiss to my forehead, so different from the consuming kisses of last night, and I felt something warm bloom in my chest. I'll call you tonight, Eugene said. After your shift. We'll talk more then. Okay, I whispered. As his driver took me across Seoul to my tiny apartment, I stared out the window and tried to process everything that had happened in the last 12 hours. My relationship had ended in the cruelest way possible. I'd gotten drunk and thrown myself at a stranger. I'd had the most intense sexual experience of my life. And now that stranger wanted to see me again. It was too much. Too fast. Too overwhelming. But as my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, Eugene's number, I felt that same warm flutter in my chest. Get some rest. Text me when you're home safe. 3 simple sentences. But they made me feel cared for in a way Miho never had. Maybe, just maybe, the worst night of my life had led to something unexpected. Something that might actually be good. The next few weeks passed in a blur of work shifts, apartment hunting, and increasingly frequent texts from Eugene. He was persistent and surprisingly sweet. Did you eat today? How was work? I'm thinking about you. Simple messages that made my omega instincts purr with satisfaction. We hadn't seen each other in person since that morning. Our schedules kept conflicting, but the steady stream of communication made me feel connected to him in a way I'd never experienced. My sister Yuna noticed immediately. You're smiling at your phone, she observed one evening as I sat on her couch, supposedly looking at apartment listings but actually reading Eugene's latest message about wanting to take me to dinner. Am I? I tried to school my expression into something neutral. You are. You've been doing it for days now. She sat beside me, her pregnant belly prominent at 7 months. Who is he? Who says it's a he? Young-min. I've known you since you were born. I know that look. She poked my shoulder. So, details. Now. I sighed, setting my phone down. His name is Eugene. I met him. The night Miho and I broke up. Her eyebrows rose. The same night? Young-min. It wasn't like that. I mean it was, but I ran a hand through my hair. I was drunk and heartbroken and he was there. He was kind to me when I needed it most. And he wants to see me again. Keeps asking me out. But you keep saying no, Yuna guessed. I nodded miserably. I'm not ready, Yuni. It's too soon. I'm still processing everything with Miho. Or, she said gently, you're scared that anyone who seems too good to be true probably is. Damn her for knowing me so well. Maybe, I admitted quietly. Young-min. She took my hand, squeezing. Not everyone is Miho. Some people are actually what they seem. But what if he's not? What if I let myself fall and he turns out to be another liar? Then you pick yourself up and try again. That's life. She smiled softly. But you won't know unless you give him a chance. I looked at my phone at Eugene's message, still waiting for a response. Okay, I finally typed. Dinner. This Friday? His response came within seconds. Friday. I'll pick you up at 7. Send me the address. Friday arrived too quickly. I changed outfits 3 times, drove Yuna crazy with my nervous energy and nearly canceled twice. But at precisely 7 o'clock, there was a knock at Yuna's door. I opened it to find Eugene standing there in a tailored suit, holding a bouquet of white roses. God, he was beautiful. These are for you, he said, offering the flowers with a slight bow. And these are for your sister. He produced a second, smaller bouquet. For letting me steal her brother for the evening. Yuna, who'd been peeking around the corner, actually giggled. I like him already. I shot her a look before taking the flowers. Thank you. They're beautiful. So are you, Eugene said, his eyes traveling over me with appreciation. I'd settled on simple black slacks and a soft blue sweater. Nothing fancy, but his expression made me feel like I was wearing something precious. Be good to my baby brother, Yuna called as we headed toward the door. Or you'll answer to me. Yes, ma'am, Eugene replied seriously. His car was waiting outside, that same sleek black vehicle from the night we'd met. The driver nodded respectfully as Eugene opened the door for me. So, I said once we were settled in the back seat. Where are we going? A place I know. Private. Good food. He paused. Unless you'd prefer somewhere else? No, that sounds perfect. I fidgeted with my seatbelt. I'm nervous. I know. His hand found mine, threading our fingers together. But you're here. That's what matters. The restaurant was indeed private, a traditional Korean place tucked away on a quiet street. The moment we walked in, the staff greeted Eugene with deep bows and obvious respect. Boss, your usual room is ready. There was that word again. Boss. We were led to a private dining room, all dark wood and soft lighting with a low table and cushions for seating. The door closed behind us, leaving us alone. This is really nice, I said looking around. I wanted to be able to talk without interruption. Eugene gestured for me to sit. How have you been? Really? I settled onto a cushion, considering the question. Better. Worse. Complicated. Tell me. So I did. I told him about the apartment hunting struggles, about staying with Yuna and feeling like a burden, about running into mutual friends who'd heard about the breakup and looked at me with pitying eyes. Eugene listened intently, his focus never wavering from me. When food arrived, course after course of beautifully prepared dishes, he made sure my plate was always full, my glass always topped up. What about you? I asked eventually. What do you do? Besides rescuing drunk omegas in bars. Something flickered across his face. Business. Import and export mostly. That's vague. It's boring, he countered with a slight smile. I'd rather talk about you. But I want to know about you. I leaned forward. Everyone keeps calling you boss. You have a driver, a fancy apartment, and restaurants clearly treat you like someone important. Who are you, Eugene? The air between us grew tense. Eugene set down his chopsticks, his expression carefully neutral. I'm someone who's interested in you, he said finally. Does the rest matter? It might. Why? Because I've already been with someone who hid who they really were from me, I said quietly. I can't do that again. I need honesty even if it's ugly. Eugene was silent for a long moment, studying me. Then he nodded slowly as if coming to a decision. All right. You want honesty? He met my eyes directly. I run an organization. A large one. People work for me and sometimes the work isn't exactly legal. My heart started pounding. You're, what? A criminal? Some would call me that. Others would call me a businessman who operates in gray areas. His expression didn't change. I've hurt people who tried to hurt my people. I've made decisions that kept food on tables and roofs over heads, even when those decisions weren't strictly lawful. I should have been horrified. Should have stood up and left immediately. Instead, I heard myself ask, have you ever hurt someone who didn't deserve it? No. His answer was immediate and firm. I have rules. Lines I don't cross. Like what? No innocents. No children. No one who can't fight back. His jaw tightened. The people I deal with are people who chose this life, who know the risks. Why are you telling me this? Because you asked for honesty. And because. He reached across the table, taking my hand. Because I want you to know what you're getting into. If we do this, if we try for something real, you need to understand who I am. I looked down at our joined hands, my mind racing. This man was dangerous. Possibly even deadly. He lived in a world I knew nothing about, a world that could swallow me whole. But he'd also been gentle with me when I was breaking. He'd held me through the worst night of my life. He'd been patient and persistent and kind. I need time, I finally said, to think about this, to process. I understand. Eugene squeezed my hand. Take all the time you need. But Young-min, everything I've told you tonight? It doesn't change how I feel about you. And how do you feel about me? His eyes burned with intensity. Like you're mine. Like I'd burned the world down before I let anyone hurt you again. I should have been terrified by that declaration. Instead, I felt safe. 8 weeks. 8 weeks since that night with Eugene, and everything had become impossibly complicated. We'd been seeing each other regularly. Dinners, late-night phone calls, stolen afternoons when our schedules aligned. I'd finally found a small apartment I could afford, and Eugene had insisted on helping me move despite my protests. He'd been perfect. Attentive without being smothering. Patient with my emotional recovery. Understanding when I had bad days where I couldn't stop thinking about Miho's betrayal. But he was also possessive in ways that should have alarmed me. He wanted to know where I was, who I was with. His men. Because yes, I'd finally accepted that he really did run some kind of criminal organization. Watched my building, kept me safe without being obvious about it. I should have been scared. Instead, I felt cherished. which made what I was about to tell him so much harder. I stared at the test in my trembling hands, the 2 pink lines impossibly clear. 3 tests actually, because I'd taken multiple just to be sure. All positive. Oh God, I whispered, sinking onto my bathroom floor. Oh God, oh God, oh God. Pregnant. I was pregnant with Eugene's baby. My hand went to my still flat stomach, a maelstrom of emotions swirling through me. Terror. Wonder. Panic. And underneath it all, something that felt suspiciously like joy. I was going to be a father. But Eugene. God, Eugene. What would he say? We'd been careful, I'd been on suppressants, but obviously not careful enough. And we'd only been seeing each other for 2 months. This was too fast, too much too. My phone rang, Eugene's name flashing on the screen. I let it go to voicemail, not trusting myself to talk to him right now. But seconds later, a text came through. Youngmin? Everything okay? You usually pick up. Fine, I typed back with shaking fingers. Just busy. Talk later? Call me when you can. Miss you. Tears burned in my eyes. He was going to hate this. We'd never even discussed children, never talked about the future in concrete terms. And now I was pregnant with the baby of a mafia boss I'd known for barely 2 months. This was a disaster. The doctor's appointment 3 days later confirmed what I already knew. 8 weeks pregnant. Healthy. Due in late spring. Do you have a partner? The doctor asked kindly. Someone to support you through this? Yes. Maybe. I don't know, I said honestly. She squeezed my shoulder. You have time to figure things out. But Youngmin SSI? You should tell them sooner rather than later. I nodded numbly, clutching the ultrasound image in my hands. A tiny blob that would become a person. My child. Eugene's child. I was so lost in thought walking out of the hospital that I didn't notice the car following me at first. When I finally did, my heart sank. It was one of Eugene's men. I recognized the vehicle. Of course he'd have someone watching me. He always did. Which meant he probably already knew about the hospital visit. Sure enough, when I got back to my apartment, Eugene was waiting outside my door. He looked intense. His jaw was tight, his eyes dark with some unreadable emotion. He was still in a suit, like he'd come straight from a meeting. Eugene, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. What are you doing here? Inside, he said shortly. Now. I fumbled with my keys, letting us into my small apartment. The moment the door closed, Eugene turned to face me. How long were you planning to hide it? He asked, his voice dangerously calm. What? The pregnancy. How long were you going to wait before telling me? All the blood drained from my face. How did you? My men reported that you went to a hospital. An OB-GYN specifically. His eyes bore into mine. I had them dig deeper. You've been there twice this week. Both times for prenatal appointments. I should have been angry about the invasion of privacy. Instead, I just felt exhausted. I just found out, I said quietly. 3 days ago. I was going to tell you, I needed time to process. 3 days. His voice was hard. You've known for 3 days and didn't say anything. Because I was scared. The words burst out of me. Because we've only been seeing each other for 2 months and this is insane and I didn't know how you'd react. How I'd react. Eugene stepped closer, his presence overwhelming in my small space. You're carrying my child, Youngmin. My child. And you thought I wouldn't want to know. I don't know what you want. I shot back. We've never talked about this. About kids or the future or anything beyond next week's dinner plans. Because I was trying to give you time. Space to heal. His hand shot out, gripping my chin and forcing me to meet his eyes. But this changes everything. I know, I whispered, tears starting to fall. I know it does. We're getting married. I blinked. What? Married. As soon as possible. His tone left no room for argument. I'm not letting my child grow up without my name. Without my protection. Eugene, you can't just. I can and I will. His other hand came to rest on my stomach, warm and possessive. This is my baby. You're mine. I take care of what's mine. I'm not yours, I said weakly, even though part of me desperately wanted to be. We're not in a relationship. Not really. We're just dating. Seeing where things go. We're past that now. Eugene's voice was firm. You're having my baby. That makes you mine in every way that matters. I can't marry you, I said, panic rising in my chest. I swore I'd never get married after Miho. Never let myself be that vulnerable again. I'm not him. I know, but I would never hurt you, Youngmin. Never betray you. His hand moved from my stomach to cup my face. Everything I have, everything I am, would be yours. You and our child would want for nothing. This isn't about money. It's about security, safety, stability. His eyes burned into mine. It's about making sure no one can ever take you from me. No one can question my claim on you or our child. The possessive way he spoke should have terrified me. Instead, my omega instincts were purring, responding to the alpha dominance, the promise of protection. I need time, I whispered. To think. This is too much too fast. Eugene's jaw clenched. How much time? I don't know. A few days? A week? 3 days. His voice was hard. I'll give you 3 days to decide. But Young Min. He leaned in close, his breath hot against my ear. If you say no, I'll take the baby. I won't let my child grow up unprotected, even if that means taking them from you. I jerked back, staring at him in horror. You wouldn't. I would. His expression was cold, implacable. I told you I protect what's mine. And that baby is mine. If you won't marry me and let me protect you both, I'll find another way. That's cruel. You can't just threaten to take my baby. It's not a threat. It's a promise. He stepped back, his face carefully blank. 3 days, Young Min. Give me your answer then. He left without another word, the door closing behind him with quiet finality. I collapsed onto my couch, sobbing into my hands. This was a nightmare. The man I'd started to develop feelings for had just threatened to take my baby if I didn't marry him. How had everything gone so wrong so fast? My phone buzzed. A text from Yuna. Are you okay? You sounded weird on the phone earlier. I stared at the message, then made a decision. Can I come over? I need to talk. Always. Come now. I'll make tea. 20 minutes later, I was sobbing in Yuna's arms, the whole story spilling out between hiccuping breaths. He threatened to take the baby, I kept repeating. If I don't marry him, he'll take my baby. Baby brother. Breathe. She stroked my hair, letting me cry myself out. Start from the beginning. Tell me everything. So I did. The pregnancy. Eugene's reaction. His demand for marriage. His threat. When I finished, Yuna was quiet for a long moment. Young Min, she finally said. I need you to really hear me right now. Can you do that? I nodded, wiping at my face. This man Eugene, is he dangerous? Yes. But has he ever hurt you? No. Never. Has he been good to you? These past 2 months. I thought about late-night phone calls. Flowers delivered to my workplace for no reason. The way he always made sure I'd eaten, that I was safe, that I was happy. Yes, I whispered. He's been amazing. And do you have feelings for him? Yes, I do. I was starting to fall for him before all this. Yuna took my hands, squeezing gently. Then maybe the threat isn't about cruelty. Maybe it's about fear. I blinked at her. What? Think about it. You said he runs a dangerous organization. Lives in a world where showing weakness gets you killed. She brushed hair back from my face. And now the person he cares about is carrying his child and talking about running away. Of course he's terrified. Of course he's lashing out with the only power he has. But that doesn't make it okay. No, it doesn't. But it makes it understandable. She smiled softly. Young Min, sometimes the most terrifying people are the ones who have never been loved. Who don't know how to ask for what they want without threatening or controlling. You think I should marry him? I think you should give him a chance. Really talk to him, not just about the baby but about everything. Your fears. His fears. She squeezed my hands again. And if, after that conversation, you still don't want to marry him, we'll figure something else out. You're not alone in this. I leaned into her, drawing strength from her solid presence. I'm scared, Uni. I know. But you're also strong. Stronger than you think. She pressed a kiss to my forehead. Sleep here tonight. Tomorrow call Eugene. Have that conversation. And remember, you don't have to decide everything right now. One step at a time. I nodded, exhaustion pulling at me. Okay. One step at a time. But as I drifted off to sleep on Yuna's couch, I couldn't stop thinking about Eugene's face when he'd learned about the pregnancy. He'd looked fierce, possessive, determined. But underneath all that, for just a moment, he'd looked something else. Terrified. Maybe Yuna was right. Maybe we both just needed to be honest about what we were really afraid of. Tomorrow I would call him. Tomorrow we would talk. And maybe, just maybe, we could find a way through this that didn't end in heartbreak. I called Eugene the next morning, my hands shaking as I pressed the dial button. He answered on the first ring. Young Min. I want to talk, I said without preamble. Really talk. No threats, no ultimatums. Just honesty. Silence on the other end. Then, where? The park near my apartment. In an hour. I'll be there. He was already waiting when I arrived, sitting on a bench overlooking a small pond. He stood when he saw me, his expression carefully controlled. "Thank you for coming," I said quietly, sitting down. He settled beside me, leaving a careful space between us. We sat in silence for a moment, watching ducks paddle across the water. "I'm sorry," Eugene finally said, "for threatening you yesterday. That was wrong." I looked at him in surprise. I hadn't expected an apology. "I was angry," he continued, his eyes fixed on the pond, "and scared. And I lashed out in the only way I know how, with power and control." His jaw clenched. "But you didn't deserve that. You and our baby deserve better." "Why were you scared?" I asked softly. He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "Because everyone I've ever cared about has left. Or been taken from me." My chest tightened. "Eugene. My parents died when I was 15. Car accident." His voice was flat, emotionless, the tone of someone who'd learned not to feel. "I had a younger sister. She was 12. Sweet. Innocent. Everything I wasn't." "What happened to her?" "A rival organization happened. They took her to get to me, to force me to back down from territory I'd claimed." His hands clenched into fists. "I got her back. But she was changed. Broken. She couldn't live with what they'd done to her. She killed herself when she was 16. Oh God." Tears burned in my eyes. "Eugene, I'm so sorry. I failed her. The one person I was supposed to protect, and I failed." He finally looked at me, and the naked pain in his eyes stole my breath. "So when you said you wouldn't marry me, when you talked about keeping our baby away from my world, all I could think was that I was failing again. That you'd take my child somewhere I couldn't protect them, and I'd lose them too." I reached out, taking his hand. He gripped it like a lifeline. "I wasn't trying to keep the baby from you," I said gently. "I was scared too. Scared of repeating mistakes. Scared of trusting someone and having them betray me again. I'm not him, Young-min. I'm not your ex." "I know. I do know that." I squeezed his hand. "But marriage, it's such a big step. And we barely know each other, really. What if we're making a mistake? Then we make a mistake together." He turned to face me fully. "I can't promise perfection. I can't promise there won't be problems. But I can promise loyalty. Protection. That I'll never willingly hurt you or our child." "What about love?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. "Can you promise that?" Eugene's expression softened. "I already love you, Young-min. Have since that first night when you cried in my arms. I just didn't have the words for it." My breath caught. "You love me? Why else would I have been so patient? So careful with you?" He cupped my face with his free hand. "I've never felt like this about anyone. Like I'd burn the world down just to see you smile. Like your pain is my pain, your joy is my joy." Tears spilled down my cheeks. "I'm falling in love with you too. That's what makes this so scary." "It doesn't have to be scary." He leaned his forehead against mine. "Marry me. Not because of threats or obligations. Marry me because you want to. Because you believe we can build something real together." "What if I'm not ready?" "Then we wait. However long you need." His thumb brushed away my tears. "But Young-min, our baby deserves both of us. United. Team. Can we at least try?" I thought about Yuna's words. About taking chances. About how sometimes the scariest thing is also the right thing. "Okay," I whispered. "Yes. I'll marry you." Eugene's eyes widened. "You mean it?" "Yes. But," I held up a hand when he started to smile. "With conditions." "Name them." "I want a real relationship. Not just a marriage on paper. I want us to actually try to build something together." "Done." "I want to be involved in decisions about our child. We're partners in this." "Absolutely. And if your world ever threatens our baby, if your work ever puts them in danger, I want the right to take them somewhere safe. No arguments." Eugene's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Agreed. Though I'll do everything in my power to make sure it never comes to that. One more thing." I looked him straight in the eyes. "I want you to promise me that you'll talk to me when you're scared or angry or upset. No more threatening. No more trying to control things. Just talk to me. I promise." He pulled me into his arms, holding me close. "I promise I'll try to be better. For you. For our baby." I buried my face in his chest, breathing in his familiar sandalwood scent. "When do you want to get married?" "Tomorrow if possible. But I'll settle for as soon as we can arrange it." I laughed despite myself. "That's very alpha of you. You're mine now. Mine to protect, mine to cherish. I want to make it official." "Possessive," I murmured. "Always." He tilted my face up, his eyes burning with intensity. But I'll spend every day proving I'm worthy of you trusting me with that. Then he was kissing me soft and sweet and full of promise. And for the first time since I'd found out I was pregnant, I felt something other than fear. I felt hope. The wedding was small. Just Yuna, her husband and kids, and a few of Eugene most trusted people. We kept it simple, a civil ceremony followed by a traditional Korean one for family. I wore a hanbok in soft blue, Eugene in traditional black. When we bowed to each other, sealing our union, I felt the weight of it, the promise, the commitment. I'll take care of you, Eugene whispered as we rose. Both of you. Always. The reception was held at Eugene's penthouse. Our penthouse now, I supposed. I was moving in after the honeymoon, though we decided to keep my apartment as well, just in case I needed space. Look at you, Yuna said, pulling me aside while Eugene dealt with some business call. Glowing. Married. About to be a mother. She pressed a hand to her own pregnant belly. Our kids will be cousins close in age. They can grow up together. I can't believe this is real, I admitted. A month ago I was heartbroken and alone. Now I'm married to a mafia boss and having his baby. Life is strange like that. She hugged me carefully. But Young-min? He looks at you like you hung the moon. Whatever else happens, hold on to that. The honeymoon was a week at a private beach resort, Eugene's idea. He'd wanted to take me somewhere far from Seoul, somewhere we could just be ourselves without the weight of his reputation. It was perfect. We spent lazy days on the beach, Eugene's hand constantly finding my still flat stomach, talking to our unborn child. Nights were filled with gentle lovemaking, careful now that I was pregnant but no less intense. I love you, he'd say afterwards, his hand splayed possessively over my belly. Both of you. My family. On our last night, as we lay tangled together under silk sheets, I finally voiced the question that had been bothering me. What happens when the baby comes? With your work, I mean. Will we be in danger? Eugene's arms tightened around me. I've already started making changes. Delegating more. Taking fewer risks. He pressed a kiss to my temple. My priority is you and our child now. Everything else is secondary. But you can't just walk away from your organization. No. But I can restructure. Make it so I'm less of a target, less in the line of fire. His hand moved in soothing circles on my back. I meant what I said, Young-min. Our baby will grow up safe. Whatever it takes. I believed him. And maybe that was the most surprising thing of all. After everything, after all my fear and doubt, I trusted Eugene completely. The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Eugene was attentive to the point of being overbearing, constantly checking on me, making sure I ate properly, insisting I rest. You're hovering, I complained one evening at 4 months, when my belly had just started to show. I'm carrying, he corrected, settling beside me on the couch with a bowl of cut fruit. Eat. I just ate dinner. The baby needs nutrients. The baby is fine. I'm fine. Stop worrying so much. He pressed a hand to my small bump, his expression softening. I can't help it. You're carrying the most precious thing in the world. And how was I supposed to stay annoyed when he said things like that? The first time I felt the baby move, I was at work. A small flutter like butterfly wings against my insides. I gasped, my hand flying to my stomach. Young-min SSI? Are you all right? One of my coworkers asked. The baby? I breathed, tears forming in my eyes. The baby moved. I called Eugene immediately, not caring that I was interrupting a meeting. What's wrong? He answered, alarm clear in his voice. Nothing's wrong. The baby moved. I felt them move. Silence. Then, I'm coming to you. Stay there. Eugene, I'm at work, you can't? But he'd already hung up. 20 minutes later, he burst into the cafe, still in his suit, slightly out of breath like he'd run from the car. Where? He demanded, ignoring my coworker's stares. I took his hand, placing it on my belly. Here. It's probably too early for you to feel from the outside, but... There was again that small flutter. Eugene's eyes widened. I felt it. I felt them. He dropped to his knees right there in the middle of the cafe, pressing his face to my belly. Hello, little one. It's your appa. We're going to take such good care of you. I ran my fingers through his hair, not even caring about the scene we were making. This was my husband, my alpha, overwhelmed with love for our unborn child. I love you, I whispered. He looked up at me, eyes bright with unshed tears. I love you more. At 6 months, we found out we were having a daughter. Eugene cried, actually cried, in the doctor's office. A daughter? He kept saying. We're having a daughter. That night, he made love to me with a reverence that stole my breath, his hands and mouth worshipping every inch of my changing body. You're giving me everything, he murmured against my skin. A family. A reason to be better. A future I never thought I'd have. You're giving me the same, I gasped as he moved inside me, slow and deep and perfect. You've given me everything, Eugene. The nursery came together slowly. Eugene insisted on doing most of it himself, carefully painting walls a soft lavender, assembling furniture with patient care. She needs to know she's wanted, he said when I asked why he wouldn't just hire people. She needs to come into a home built with love. Una gave birth to her son a month before I was due, and holding my tiny nephew made everything real. Soon, very soon, I'd have my own baby to hold. You're going to be amazing parents, Una said, watching Eugene carefully cradle the newborn. Look at him. He's already a natural. She was right. Eugene held my nephew like he was made of glass, his expression soft with wonder. One more month, he said, handing the baby back. One more month and she'll be here. Are you ready? I asked. He pulled me close, his hand resting on my now prominent belly. For this? For you? For our daughter? I've never been more ready for anything in my life. Labor started 3 weeks early at 2 in the morning on a Tuesday. I woke to a sharp cramping sensation and wet sheets. Eugene. He was awake instantly, alpha instincts kicking in. What's wrong? I think my water broke. He was out of bed in seconds, already reaching for his phone. Okay. We practiced this. Hospital bag is by the door. I'll call the doctor. You just breathe. Despite the pain, I almost laughed at how panicked he sounded. My calm, collected mafia boss husband was freaking out. Eugene. Breathe. You're supposed to be supporting me, remember? Right. Yes. Supporting. He took a deep breath, visibly pulling himself together. Then his hand found mine, strong and steady. I'm here. I've got you. The drive to the hospital was a blur of contractions and Eugene's worried questions. By the time we arrived, I was in active labor, the pain intense enough that I couldn't think about much else. You're doing so well, Eugene murmured, staying by my side as nurses bustled around us. So strong, my Omega. Our daughter is almost here. Hours passed. The pain intensified. But through it all, Eugene never left, never wavered. He let me squeeze his hand hard enough to bruise, wiped my forehead with cool cloths, whispered encouragement when I was sure I couldn't do it anymore. I can't, I gasped during a particularly bad contraction. Eugene, I can't. You can, he said firmly, his eyes locked on mine. You're the strongest person I know, Young Min. You survived heartbreak. You took a chance on a dangerous man. You're bringing our daughter into the world. You can do this. And somehow, with his belief in me, I could. One more push, the doctor said. Just one more. I bore down with everything I had, Eugene's hand in mine, his voice in my ear. And then, a cry. High and indignant and perfect. It's a girl, the doctor announced, though we already knew. A healthy baby girl. They placed her on my chest, tiny and red-faced and absolutely beautiful. I stared down at her in wonder, barely able to process that this perfect little being had been inside me. Hello, baby girl, I whispered, tears streaming down my face. We've been waiting for you. Eugene's hand covered mine on her small back, his own tears falling freely. She's perfect. Young Min, she's absolutely perfect. Our daughter opened her eyes, dark like her father's, and seemed to look right at us. In that moment, everything else faded away. The pain, the fear, the uncertainty of the past months. There was only love. What should we name her? I asked softly. We discussed names but hadn't decided. Now looking at her, I knew. Jihyo, Eugene said, and I nodded. It meant wisdom and intelligence. Everything we wanted for our daughter. Kim Jihyo, I said, testing it out. Welcome to the world, my love. The first week home was chaos. Jihyo demanded feedings every 2 hours, cried for reasons we couldn't always decipher, and generally turned our lives upside down. I was exhausted, overwhelmed, and more in love than I'd ever been. Eugene was a revelation. He changed diapers without complaint, walked the floors with Jihyo when she wouldn't sleep, sang soft lullabies in the middle of the night. You're good at this, I said one night, watching him gently rock our daughter. I have a lot of time to make up for, he replied quietly. A lot of love to give that I never thought I'd get to share. Eugene. He looked at me and his expression was open in a way it rarely was with anyone else. You gave me this, Young Min. A family. A purpose beyond survival. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve it. You already do, I said, standing to join him. Together, we looked down at our sleeping daughter. You already do. Months passed. Jihyo grew from a tiny newborn to a smiling, cooing baby. She had Eugene's eyes and my smile, and she owned both of us completely. Eugene kept his promise. His business activities became more legitimate, more distant. He was home most nights for dinner, present for every milestone. The day Jihyo first smiled at him, he actually teared up. "Did you see that?" he demanded, holding her like she was the most precious thing in existence. She smiled at me. Her appa. "She loves you," I said, smiling at them both. "Just like I do." That night, after putting Jihyo down in her crib, Eugene pulled me into his arms. "Thank you," he said softly. "For what?" "For giving me a chance. For believing in me when you had every reason not to. For giving me this family." He pressed a kiss to my forehead. "For loving me even when I didn't know how to love myself." "You saved me too," I reminded him. "That night in the bar when I was breaking, you gave me something to hold on to. You showed me that not everyone who seems too good to be true is lying. I'll never lie to you. Never betray you." His hand came up to cup my face. "You and Jihyo are my world now. Everything I do, it's for you." I believed him. Against all odds, despite every fear and doubt, I believed him completely. "Make love to me," I whispered. It had been months since we'd had time for intimacy, both of us too exhausted from new parenthood. But tonight, Jihyo was sleeping peacefully. And tonight, I needed to feel connected to my husband in that elemental way. Eugene's eyes darkened with want. "Are you sure?" "Very sure." He swept me up in his arms, carrying me to our bedroom like I weighed nothing. Set me down on the bed with careful reverence. "I've missed this," he murmured, slowly undressing me. "Missed you." "I'm right here," I breathed as his mouth found my skin. "Always right here." We came together slowly, sweetly, relearning each other's bodies. And when Eugene slid inside me, it felt like coming home. "I love you," he gasped, moving with careful control. "So much. My omega. My husband. My everything." "Love you too," I moaned, meeting his thrusts. "My alpha. My heart." We climbed together, perfectly in sync, and when we fell over the edge, it was together. Always together. Afterwards, tangled in sheets in each other, Eugene held me close. "No regrets?" he asked quietly. "Not a single one. Even though I threatened to take our baby?" I turned to face him. "That was fear talking. And you apologized. Worked to be better." I pressed a kiss to his jaw. "Everyone makes mistakes, Eugene. What matters is that you try to fix them. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of you. You already are." From the nursery, Jihyo let out a small cry. We both froze, listening, but she settled back into sleep on her own. "Good girl," Eugene murmured proudly. "Learning to self-soothe already." I laughed softly. "She's got her appa's determination. And her papa's kindness." He pulled me closer. "She's going to be incredible. She already is." We lay there in comfortable silence, listening to our daughter's soft breathing through the baby monitor. "Young Min? Thank you for saying yes. For taking a chance on us." I smiled against his chest. "Best decision I ever made." And it was true. The night that had seemed like my lowest point, finding Miho's betrayal, drinking myself into oblivion, breaking down in a stranger's arms, had led me here. To Eugene. To Jihyo. To a family built on trust and love and second chances. To my happily ever after. "Jihyo ya. Come back here." I watched with amusement as our 3-year-old daughter toddled away from Eugene, giggling mischievously. She was wearing her favorite pink dress, the one her appa had bought her despite my protest that she didn't need another one, and her hair was in pigtails that were already coming loose. "She's getting fast," Yuna observed from beside me. We were at the park watching our kids play. Her son Minjun was building something in the sandbox while his younger sister napped in her stroller. "Too fast," I agreed. "Seems like yesterday she was a newborn. Time flies." Yuna squeezed my hand. "Look at you though. Married to a mafia boss, raising a beautiful daughter, and still managing to look happy. Who would have thought?" "Definitely not me," I admitted. "But here we are." Eugene finally caught Jihyo, sweeping her up in his arms and blowing a raspberry on her belly. Her delighted squeals carried across the park, making other parents smile. "He's a good father," Yuna said softly. "A good husband. The best," I agreed. "Even with everything, the work, the danger, the past, he's always made us his priority. Any more surprises coming?" She gestured to my stomach. "You were glowing like this when you were pregnant with Jihyo." I smiled, placing a hand over my still flat belly. "Maybe. It's early yet, but maybe." Yuna squealed, causing several people to look our way. "Young Min. Really?" "Sure. We haven't told anyone yet. Eugene only found out last week." "How did he take it?" I thought about his reaction, the way he'd stared at the test for a full minute before grabbing me and spinning me around, his face split in the biggest grin I'd ever seen. He cried. Happy tears. Then immediately started planning how to expand the nursery. Of course he did. Yuna hugged me. I'm so happy for you. Both of you. Eugene approached with Jihyo on his hip, our daughter's arms wrapped around his neck. What are you two conspiring about? Nothing, I said innocently. He narrowed his eyes. I know that look. What look? I'm keeping secrets from my husband look. He settled beside me on the bench, Jihyo climbing into my lap. Should I be worried? Never, I said, pressing a kiss to his jaw. I love you. Love you too. His hand found mine, threading our fingers together. Both my girls. 3, I whispered, just loud enough for him to hear. His eyes widened. What? I nodded toward my stomach meaningfully. Pure joy flooded his expression. He pulled me close, careful of Jihyo between us, and kissed me soundly. Appa. Gross. Jihyo protested, pushing at his face. We broke apart laughing, Eugene pressing kisses all over our daughter's face until she giggled. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, he said, looking between Jihyo and me. Both of you. All of you, he amended, hand going to my belly. You're not so bad. Yourself, I teased. Not so bad? I'm amazing. He puffed out his chest dramatically. Right, Jihyo ya? Appa is amazing. Appa is silly, our daughter declared. Silly but amazing, he corrected. I watched them bicker playfully, my heart so full it felt like it might burst. This was my family. This was my life. And it was perfect. That night, after putting Jihyo to bed, Eugene and I stood in the nursery doorway watching her sleep. She's getting so big, he murmured. Soon she won't be our baby anymore. She'll always be our baby, I said. Even when she's 40. True. He turned to me, pulling me into his arms. Another baby. Can you believe it? Honestly? No. But I'm happy. Are you? Happier than I have any right to be. He pressed a kiss to my temple. Thank you. For all of this. For choosing me every day. It's not a hard choice, I said honestly. You make it easy to love you. Even when I'm overprotective and demanding? Even then. We stood there in comfortable silence, just holding each other. Young Min. If someone had told me 3 years ago that the drunk Omega crying in my arms would become my entire world, I wouldn't have believed them. If someone had told me the terrifying mafia boss would become the love of my life, I would have laughed. I pulled back to look at him. But here we are. Here we are, he echoed, his eyes soft with love. And I wouldn't change a single thing. Not even the part where you threatened to take our baby? He winced. Maybe that part. But it led us here, so. I laughed, reaching up to kiss him. It all led us here. The good, the bad, the terrifying, all of it brought us to this moment. To forever, Eugene said, kissing me back. To forever, I agreed. And as we stood there in the soft glow of the night light, our daughter sleeping peacefully behind us and another baby growing inside me, I knew with absolute certainty that we would make it. Through whatever challenges came, whatever storms we had to weather, we would face them together. Because we were a family. And family was forever. The house was finally quiet. Jihyo had gone down easily tonight, exhausted from a full day at the park. I'd sung her favorite lullaby twice, stroked her soft hair until her breathing evened out, and then stood in the doorway for a few extra moments just watching her sleep. Our miracle. Our beautiful daughter. And now, another miracle growing inside me. I pressed a hand to my stomach as I walked down the hallway toward our bedroom. Still flat, still early, only 8 weeks along. But I could feel the change in my body, the subtle shift that came with new life. Eugene was already in our room when I entered, standing by the window looking out over Seoul's glittering skyline. He'd changed into soft sleep pants, his chest bare, and the sight of him still made my heart skip a beat even after 3 years of marriage. She's asleep? He asked without turning around. Out like a light. I moved to stand behind him, wrapping my arms around his waist and pressing my cheek against his back. You okay? Just thinking. About? He turned in my arms, his hands coming up to frame my face. About how lucky I am. How close I came to losing this before it even started. Eugene. No, let me say this. His thumb stroked across my cheekbones, his eyes intense. 3 years ago, I was an arrogant bastard who thought he could control everything with threats and power. I almost lost you because of it. But you didn't, I said softly. You changed. You grew. Because of you. You made me want to be better. His hand slid down to rest on my stomach. And now you're giving me another gift. Another child. Another chance to get it right. Emotion swelled in my chest. You're already getting it right. You're an amazing father. An amazing husband. I want to be amazing for you in other ways too. His voice dropped, became rougher. It's been so long since I've had you properly. Since I've been able to worship you the way you deserve. Heat pooled low in my belly at his words, at the dark promise in his eyes. Then worship me, I whispered. Something predatory flashed across his face. Careful what you wish for, Omega. I know exactly what I'm wishing for. I pressed closer, feeling his body respond to my nearness. I want my alpha. All of him. Eugene growled low in his throat, an actual alpha growl that made my Omega instincts sing with arousal. Then his mouth was on mine, claiming, demanding, and I melted into him with a moan. This kiss was different from the gentle ones we'd shared lately. This was raw hunger, barely leashed desire, and I welcomed it with everything in me. Bed, Eugene commanded against my lips. Now. I obeyed, walking backwards until my legs hit the mattress. Eugene followed, his eyes never leaving mine as I lay back against the pillows. You're so beautiful, he murmured, his hands sliding under my shirt. Especially like this. Carrying my child. Knowing my claim is on you in the most primal way possible. His possessive words should have annoyed me. Instead, they made me arch into his touch, craving more. Please, I breathed. Need you. I know. He pulled my shirt over my head, tossing it aside. I can smell how much you need me. Your scent is driving me crazy. His mouth found my neck, teeth grazing over my scent glands. I cried out, my hands fisting in his hair. The glands were so sensitive, especially during pregnancy, and he knew exactly how to work them. Alpha, I gasped. Oh God, Eugene. That's right. You're alpha. His tongue laved over the glands, then moved lower to capture a nipple. Only yours. I writhed beneath him as he lavished attention on my chest, alternating between gentle kisses and sharp nips that sent pleasure pain shooting through me. My body was already so sensitive from the pregnancy, every touch amplified. Too much, I whimpered. Not enough. I need. Tell me. His hand slid down my stomach, fingers playing at the waistband of my pants. Tell me what you need, Young Min. You. Inside me. Please, Alpha, I need you inside me. He made quick work of removing the rest of our clothing, and then we were skin to skin, his body covering mine in the most perfect way. You're already so wet for me, Eugene groaned, his fingers sliding through my slick. So ready. Always ready for you, I managed, spreading my legs wider in invitation. Only you. His eyes burned into mine as he positioned himself, the blunt head of his cock pressing against my entrance. I love you, he said, his voice rough with emotion. So fucking much. Love you too. Now please. He pushed inside in one smooth thrust, filling me completely, and we both groaned at the sensation. This connection, this intimacy, it never got old. Every time felt like the first time and forever all at once. Okay. Eugene asked, holding himself still despite the tension in his body. Perfect. I pulled him down for a kiss. You're perfect. Now move, Alpha. Make love to your Omega. He did, setting a rhythm that was slow and deep and absolutely devastating. Each thrust hit that perfect spot inside me, building pleasure with careful precision. Look at me, Eugene commanded, his hand gripping my jaw gently. Want to see your eyes when you come apart. I forced my eyes open, meeting his dark gaze. The intensity there stole my breath. Raw love and fierce possession and desperate need all mixed together. There you are, he murmured, his hips never stopping their relentless rhythm. My beautiful Omega. Mine. Yours? I agreed, my nails digging into his shoulders. Only yours. He shifted the angle slightly and suddenly I was seeing stars. Oh God, right there, please don't stop. Never stopping. His hand slid between us, fingers finding my neglected cock. Want to feel you come around me. Want to feel you fall apart. The dual sensation, him inside me, his hand stroking me, was overwhelming. Pleasure built impossibly higher, coiling tighter and tighter in my core. Eugene, I gasped, my body tensing. I'm close, I'm so close. Let go, he commanded, his voice thick with his own approaching climax. Come for me, Young Min. Come for your Alpha. His words, combined with one particularly perfect thrust, sent me over the edge. I came with a cry, my body clenching around him as waves of pleasure crashed through me. Fuck yes, Eugene groaned, his rhythm faltering. So perfect. So good for me. He followed moments later, his release hot inside me as he buried his face in my neck. His teeth found my mating mark, the permanent claim he'd given me a year into our marriage, and bit down gently. The secondary orgasm that ripped through me at the sensation was unexpected and intense. I sobbed his name, clinging to him as pleasure rolled through me in endless waves. Finally, we both stilled, breathing hard, bodies trembling with aftershocks. Holy shit, I managed when I could speak again. That was... Yeah. Eugene pressed soft kisses along my jaw, my neck, my shoulder. Are you okay? Did I hurt you? The baby. We're fine, I assured him, running my fingers through his sweat-dampened hair. Better than fine. That was incredible. He lifted his head to look at me, his expression soft and vulnerable in a way he only ever was with me. I never want to stop making you feel that way. Never want to stop showing you how much I love you. Then don't stop. I pulled him down for a tender kiss. Keep showing me. Every day. For the rest of our lives. Deal. He carefully pulled out, making us both hiss at the sensitivity, then gathered me close against his chest. His hand immediately went to my stomach, palms splayed possessively over where our second child grew. Thank you. For what? Everything. The children. Your love. Your trust. He pressed a kiss to my forehead. 3 years ago I was broken. Alone. Sure I'd never have this kind of happiness. And then you stumbled into my life, drunk and crying and absolutely perfect. I was a mess, I protested with a laugh. You were exactly what I needed. His hand moved in slow circles on my stomach. You still are. I snuggled closer, breathing in his familiar scent, sandalwood and something uniquely Eugene. I never thought I'd be here either. After Miho, I was sure I'd never trust anyone again. Never love again. And now I can't imagine my life without you. I tilted my head up to meet his eyes. You're my home, Eugene. You and Jihyo and this little one. You're everything I never knew I needed. His arms tightened around me. Forever. Forever, I promised. Through everything. No matter what comes. Even when I'm overprotective and bossy? Especially then. I kissed his chest right over his heart. Because it means you care. It means you're trying. Always trying. For you. For our family. We lay there in comfortable silence, his hand never leaving my stomach, my fingers tracing idle patterns on his skin. Outside, Seoul continued its endless motion, but in our bedroom time seemed to stop. Young Min. Thank you for saying yes. That day in the park when I asked you to marry me. Thank you for taking the chance. Best risk I ever took, I murmured, already half asleep. Love you, Alpha. Love you too, Omega. Always. As I drifted off in my husband's arms, safe and loved and home, I sent up a silent thank you to whatever fate had brought us together. That terrible night 3 years ago, the night I thought my world was ending, had actually been the beginning of everything. The beginning of my real life. The beginning of my forever. And I wouldn't change a single moment of it.